So yeah, let's start. Let me share my screen. Yeah, can you see my screen? Okay. So let's start. So before going to Snowflake, we need to understand like what is exactly of a Snowflake and where it is coming from. So previously you about here about Oracle and any other tools that is MySQL, other things that is there itself. Oracle still it is there. But why there is a demand of a Snowflake? So this is the main thing that is coming for a cloud computing here. So right now everything should go, every company should need a system that is there in a cloud system itself. So for that only Snowflake is a reliable thing right now, which every company want to store their data inside of a cloud instead of a Snowflake. Okay. So for that itself, Snowflake is a highly demanded here right now. So what's the exact of a cloud computing here? So cloud computing is a on-demand delivery of IT resources over the internet with pay-as-you-go pricing. So this is a main word that is coming for a cloud computing here. So pay-as-you-go pricing means whatever the data that is going to be stored inside of your Snowflake or inside of a cloud here, so that price you are only to give the storage cost. Snowflake, why the Snowflake is much more demanded and why every company is going for the Snowflake? Because of a pricing demand in itself. There is another factor also be there. The main factor is like to reduce the price of a data that is stored inside of a Snowflake. You are giving the storage of data that you store inside of a cloud. You are not giving any other things like what's the data you are going to be stored, or what are the running tools you are running inside of a Snowflake. You are not giving that storage. You are not giving the credits for that part. You are giving the credit what's the data that you are going to be stored here. So instead of buying, owning, and maintaining physical data consent and servers, you can access technology services like computing power, storage, database, and as of needed based on the cloud provider. Instead of buying means it is directly in a cloud itself. So you need to be logged in with your credential and you are directly going to your database. It is not like you have to maintain the physical data centers or anything like that. So it is not recurring to that. You are directly connecting to the Oracle. You are directly connecting to Snowflake itself with your credential part. What's the advantage of cloud computing? The main advantage of cloud computing: electricity, cost saving, deploy globally. What's the things? Electricity is like no need to take tension of resource availability. So banking project they require the resource availability at the time when they require much more of data to be stored, or whenever data is coming back to the banking, they require that part of time to remove to increase the storage. So for that itself Snowflake is a much more needed, because when we are getting the much more data at the time of running of a procedure, or at the time we are getting the source like from other source we are getting the data. So if at the time we are getting much more data, we can increase the size of a virtual warehouse in Snowflake, so that Snowflake can handle the data at the time when we are loading it. So that electricity is required right now in every environment, in every sector. They require that electricity part. If uh, right now the coming December month, right? So if you know in December month, almost all the clients will be in a holiday type mode only. So we are not requiring that much of data. So we can reduce that electricity so that we can reduce the price itself. Okay, so for that itself, no need to take tension of a resource availability. You can anytime scale up or you can anytime scale down here. Instantly grow and sync capacity as a business needed. Cost saving, you can going to pay for the storage and the service that you are using for a particular time. So previously I'm saying like you are giving the pay for the storage, but also there is a additional system is like as a Snowflake is a platform like software as a service. So that's why whatever the software that you are using like inside of a Snowflake, you are running a virtual warehouse to run a query. Like if you write select star from customer table, so table is there itself, you are giving the pricing for the storage for that customer table. But to run that select star from customer, there is a virtual warehouse is there in Snowflake. So whichever the second it is running, like see we have 10 records, so it takes something around 1 second or 2 second. It is a mass 1 second 2 second, but yeah, just assume like it take 1 second or 2 second. So whatever the time it's running it, so on that basis itself you are giving a pricing, but that's a minimal price, that's not a high level pricing. Something like terabyte of data I have, that's it. Yeah, here we have a terabytes of data we have. Then it takes something around of dollars perspective itself. So I will explain what's the part and whichever the warehouse that we are running. So I will explain like, but for right now, just know about like it is taking the charges for storage and what are the services that you are using inside of a Snowflake. Okay. Cost saving. Deploy globally. You can expand a new geographical region and deploy your application in minutes. So let's assume like you have deploy your application. Your primary account is on EU Frankfurt. Okay. So you run in your AWS account and in Snowflake account also there itself. So let's assume like suddenly that server got crashed, and you are in a banking sector or any of a energy sector, and you are getting the records. Then what will be happen? Like if your entire server itself is gone and you are not able to retrieve those data, you are getting the data on every hour itself or every 30 minutes itself, then what will you do? So there is a secondary server also be available inside of a Snowflake. So Snowflake itself give you a secondary server. So like if your primary server is not there itself or it's got crashed itself, so secondary server within a minute itself it start running into it. Okay. And your services coin started at the time itself. So there is nothing any issue of a globally available the server is available or not. So it is taken care by the Snowflake itself. Okay, that is called as a replication in Snowflake. I will explain whenever we go uh, in the course itself what is a replication, what is a failover is there. So I will explain all those things. Okay. So type of cloud computing, we know we have a three types of cloud computing: platform as a service, infrastructure as a service, and software as a service. So platform as a service, normal example like Google Apps Engine and OpenShift. Infrastructure as a service, Azure and AWS. The main example as infrastructure as a service as AWS, and software as a service like you are using a software like Snowflake, Salesforce, all those things you are using a software to to run your data warehousing concepts. So that is called as a software as a service. Okay. Snowflake data warehouse. So where we are getting, so from this sheet we got like, okay, Snowflake is coming from software as a SaaS. And what's the uses of is why I use Snowflake? So what are the uses advantages of cloud computing? But apart from that, why we use a Snowflake as a data warehouse? Okay, one more thing, you have any doubt in this sheet here? Okay, I take as a no. So why we choose a Snowflake as a data warehouse? So a data warehouse, before that we need to know like what is a data warehouse. You read about or if you give any interview, they ask about what is a data warehouse and what is a data lake. What's the difference between both of the things? So what's a data warehouse? Is a regional database that is designed for analytical rather than transactional work. It collect and aggregated data from one or many sources and it analyze to produce business insights. So normally it's like there is a different sources. Let's assume like we are getting record from Ticket Pro, we are getting record from Service Now. Other things will be there. Okay. So you are getting different sources, you are getting records from different sources and you are processing into the Snowflake. So there is a concept of a data warehouse inside of a Snowflake. You are getting all the records from different sources to Snowflake in a data warehouse, and you are processing that record as part your things, like whichever the record that is required, like transactional data or whatever the analytical function that you use on that particular data, and you are sending the record to clients, or you are sending the records to reporting tools like Power BI or Tableau. So like this is a process, this is called as a data warehouse. Data warehousing has a two key functions. It has a two key function. Like first is a it serves as a historical repository for integrating the information and data is needed by the business, which may come from a variant of different sources, like whatever that I explained. Like, see, whenever you started working on a project, uh, when you migrate in the project, so till now I have migrated 5 projects. So when you migrated a project, they started to store the data on a monthly basis. But after completing it, the company need the something of historical data inside of Snowflake, like 3 years. It's depend upon the clients, like they require of 3 years, they require of 2 years. It depend, but minimum they require of a 2 years of data inside of a Snowflake, that historical data. They do not want to go back to their previous, like where they have migrated from Teradata or from ClickSense. So do not want to go back to their older records. So they directly need those data inside of a Snowflake. So that is called as a historical data. So first, it serves as a historical repository for integrating the information which may come from the variant of different sources. Second, it serves as a query execution and processing engine for that data, enabling end users to interact with data that is stored inside of a database. Okay, so query execution is like just we are executing the query. We have the database, like all the data is stored inside of a database, customer, employee, whatever the tables we have loaded. When we want to execute in the query, we want to check the data, like how the data is looking like. So we can directly see from executing the query. Here it is shown as query execution and processing engine. So select star from employee, where employee name is equal to Sandy, or employee name is equal to anything like employee ID, whatever the interacting you are doing with the database, that is called as a second processing part, like second key function. The Snowflake data warehouse include a pure cloud SQL data warehouse from the ground up, designed to handle all aspects of data and analytics. Is combined of a high performance, high accuracy. Simplicity is just like of a whatever the use of a Snowflake data warehouse. So it's the same thing. Okay. So Snowflake physically separated but logically integrated storage, compute service like metadata, user management. So metadata and user management, you hear about, if you knew about the Snowflake, you hear about this new word like metadata or user management. What is the point? What's the main use of this user management or metadata? What is in the first of your mind, like whenever I started with the Snowflake, when I hear about this metadata and user management, I I want to know like what is this user management or metadata, because in Oracle it is not like a word like metadata or anything like that. So metadata is like you created a database, okay? You created a schema, you created a tables, views, functions, all of the things you have created inside that. But there is an information schema that is created by the Snowflake itself, okay? So inside that information schema, whatever the table, views, functions, whatever you have created, the Snowflake automatically saves those record inside this information schema. And metadata is like it's keep all the records of all the database, like all the information schema of all the database that you created into it. Okay, so you have created pipelines, Snowpipe you have created, you created a task, you created a stream, whatever you have created. So it saves the data style itself. Like in metadata, you have normally you have created a Snowpipe. It runs, sometimes it fails. So whatever it is having, metadata store those things so that in future, whenever you require it, you can directly go to the metadata and you can capture the things. It's just like of a golden copy of all the data. Okay, it is as of that a metadata. And a user management, so user management is like in Snowflake we have RBAC. Okay, so role management things. So see, you run a company, you have lot of developers, you have a testers, you have admin roles we have. So how to concrete, how to make a change, how to get data separation between the users itself. So some users like developers, they want to see all the data because they are currently working on those data. Okay, but the testers, they do not want to see those records. They just want to check like, okay, this is running or not, how many records they are getting, that's it. They do not want to see the customer IDs, customer address. They do not want to see all those things, right? Sorry. So for that itself, we have this user management. Okay, so that only particular users or a particular role. So in Snowflake, we have role and users, but all the things are going under the role itself. Okay, so because there are a lot of users, like 150 developers you have, 100 tester you have. So one by one user ID you cannot keep it, right? So you can create a role so that you have created RL dev, and you kept all the 150 developers inside that RL dev, and you just grant that merging statement so that this developer can see all the tables data. Tester, 100 tester, RL test, you have created a role, and you kept all the tester inside that role, and you uh, whatever the grant that you want, you can give it. So this is as a user management things. I will explain all those things that when we go into it. RBAC, what is the uses, how we can implement it instead of a Snowflake of RBAC and other users part. But I will explain all those things. Okay. Sorry. Snowflake employs a central purchase data repository that is accessible from all compute nodes, but similar to share nothing architecture. One more thing, yeah, I forget about this one. Snowflake is using actually a share nothing architecture. You heard about like share architecture or share nothing architecture. Okay, in interview also there's someone can ask like uh, Snowflake using which architecture part. It is using as a share nothing architecture. Okay, Snowflake process queries using MPP, massive parallel processing compute clusters. In this set, each node is cluster stores a portions of entire data set locally. That's a normal thing. I will explain what is a cluster, what is a virtual warehouse. So I will explain all those things. Okay, let's go for a Snowflake architecture. uh, in interviews also they will ask like how many layers in Snowflake architecture. Okay, so Snowflake architecture, we have three layers: cloud servicing layer, query processing layer, database storage layer. Okay, so from this image you are able to get some idea like what is the first layer, which is coming as a data storage layer. Okay, not a cloud processing. Cloud processing is the last layer. Okay, data storage layer. So when you are storing any data inside of a Snowflake, assume like you have an employee table, you have 100 records. Okay, so you store the data inside of a Snowflake. So you store the data inside of a database storage. After that, it going into the query processing layer. After query processing layer, whatever the data you have created, which cloud performance, cloud service layer is like the core of a Snowflake. Okay, so it take care of like what is the optimized things, how the data is getting connected to other data resources part, the customer connection. So those things are created by the cloud service layer. So what we need to understand like what is going inside of this layer itself. We have customer table we store instead of a storage layer, but what will happen after that? How Snowflake stores the data inside of a database storage? Okay, so inside of a database storage layer, when the data is loaded into Snowflake, it rearranges the data into internal columnar format. Okay, how you are getting like the processing power. You hear about like Snowflake processing power is much faster as compared to any databases that is currently in market. Why? Because it stores the data into internal columnar format. If you store the data in row wise, then it check all the records. But if you save the in columnar format, it will check a particular name, and on that basis itself it gives back a record. It do not check all the columns itself. Okay, so for that it is a what you can say, it is a highly demanded, like why the Snowflake is much faster in processing of a queries. So it stores the internal columnar format before storing into optimized version of cloud storage. It manages how data is stored, and the data objects stored by Snowflake are not visible, not accessible by customer, but can access through SQL queries. Normally, like you cannot see the data inside of a Snowflake. You can only see whenever you are querying those records, like select star from customer or select star from department. So from there itself in a virtual warehouse, you can see the data, how the data is looking like, how many columns we have. Select get EDL part. Okay. So of columnar format, how the data is stored. Okay. So see, this is a one more. This is a example. Like I have a customer table, and once it goes into the Snowflake, how it is stored. Okay. So it is creating a partition one, two, three. It's little bit of a difficult to understand like how the data is stored in, but just assume like one more thing, like in Snowflake it has a micro partition. Okay, so micro partition is a one more key or a advantage of a Snowflake is like the micro partition is like it's created. You have a here we have a 10 records, but in real time scenarios you have a terabytes of records. Okay, for a customer table you are getting something around 1 crore of data or 2 crores of data. Okay, so how the optimize the data store inside of a Snowflake, how it can be optimized way. So it created a number of micro partitions like here, partition one, two, three, four. How it making the partition is like you have 10 records, it make a partition of two records or five records. It's depending upon the Snowflake. Okay, so how it is creating the micro partition is created a micro partition or based on cluster key. Okay, so cluster key is like it is you can, there is a two way. Snowflake make automatically by itself make a column as a cluster key, or you can manually give a cluster key. So before that you want to know like what is a cluster key. So cluster key is like, see in this table we have we give the cluster key as DOB. Okay, why I have given the DOB? Because we have a unique of records in DOB, and we have something around four records, five records, or two records at a time itself. Okay, so it can make a combining of a data. So for that only I have give DOB as a cluster key. But Snowflake, if you manually I have give DOB, but in Snowflake it can take any other like active. It take as a active as a cluster key. So why on the basis of a cluster key, it stores the data inside of a Snowflake in a micropartition way and store in a form of columnar pattern. Like here, ID I have given in a row format, like 1A, date of birth, true, CA. Okay, city as a CA. But here it make a partition on based on a DOB. First, it make a partition on based of a DOB, like 1997. It created one of a micro partition, and inside that it kept all the records. Like inside here, the ID 354. It's having the date of birth of 1997, name, active status, and city. On that basis, it created three records as a partition one. Sorry, on a partition one. After that, in partition two, it created on based on 1998. It created three records and it created one more partition. Three is self 2012, and in partition four 2013. So why it is storing in this way? Creating a cluster, creating the number of micro partitions, row for columnar format. Why it is storing all those things? The main reason is like to make the processing power much faster. So when you are giving like select star from or select name from customer where DOB is equal to or where active is equal to true. Okay, when you give this thing, the Snowflake directly go on the basis of a active status way. Okay, it check like active status is equal to you have given true. So on this partition way, it take okay true. I have one record ID 4. It takes out the ID 4. Partition 2, it takes out true means two records is getting out. Okay, so on that basis it taking out the record much faster way. So if you give date of birth as 1997, okay, so it will not check all the partitions, it will check on based on a one partition only. Okay, 1997, it will get all the records and it will come back. You do not need to check all the other partition 2, 3, 4. So it's just a simple example, but when we go further in the course, I will explain. I will store a data inside of a Snowflake, and how the cluster is creating key, how many micro partition it is having after we created a table. so I will show you how we can check it those things. Okay. Second layer, query processing layer. So once the data is stored instead of a Snowflake, created a number of things, whatever it is required for a Snowflake. After that, the query processing layer, I want to see the record, how the record is looking like. So I have 10 records. I want to see what are the records that is getting stored. So there, the query processing layer is coming. So query processing layer, here the execution of a query, like virtual warehouses. Okay, we have this virtual warehouse where we are running our queries here. The virtual warehouse is an independent compute cluster that made up multiple compute nodes. One more thing, this question is a must thing that is in interview they will ask, what is a virtual warehouse? Okay, and what is the main part? Why this query processing layer is using here? Why Snowflake has this query processing layer? Okay, so in virtual warehouse is an independent compute cluster that made up multiple compute nodes allocated by Snowflake from cloud provider. Therefore, each virtual warehouse does not share compute resources with other virtual warehouse and no impact. What does mean? Like this is a mean of a virtual warehouse. It is having of a clustering part. So let's assume like we have a bowl, okay, and inside that bowl we have 10 marbles, okay. We required when we want to make a sound, okay. So in not a bowl, we take a box, okay. Inside of a box I kept 10 marbles. I want to make a sound. So what I'll do, I shake that bottle and it created a sound. But I do not want that much higher sound, like 10 marbles is creating much louder sound, okay. But I want to create a little sound. So I take out some marbles and I kept one or two marbles instead, and I will create a sound. The same logic happen in virtual warehouse. Okay, virtual warehouse is an independent compute cluster. It's made of a number of compute nodes. Okay, so I want to run a query, select star from employee, and it is of a 10 records of data. Okay, I do not want all the processing power, all the compute nodes instead of that virtual warehouse to run at the same time to give that simple 10 records. Okay, why I required one cluster, one compute node can run and I can get the query. So this is the needed basis. Like if I want to run a higher query and it is having of a lot of records, then I need a number of clusters, number of compute nodes to run at the same time to get the query itself at the time itself. Okay, but the simple query, I do not want these compute nodes to run at the same time, all the compute nodes. So for that itself, we have this virtual warehouse. Instead of a Snowflake virtual warehouse, we have the condition that I have explained. Like I do not want to run all the clusters. It has a size limit: extra small, small, medium, large, XL, 2XL. So these are the things that when you created a virtual warehouse, when you started running of a query, before that you need to be mentioned to Snowflake like which virtual warehouse you created. Like let's assume like you have created a virtual warehouse of compute WH and you gave that virtual warehouse a size of XL. Okay. So XL is like how many nodes it is creating. Okay, I do not have that sheet, but yeah, there is a sheet like we have. If we created small, then I have that one minute. See here. This is a user's cost, but yeah, if you created a Snowflake warehouse size as a extra small, then what is the credit users per hour? Like it is a compute nodes. Like I think it is extra small is 2, small is 4, medium is 8. Like that, it is increasing 8, 16. On that basis, it is getting increasing. But yeah, I will show you in next class. Okay. So what is a credit users per hour? Like it is a pricing credit in Snowflake. When you created a Snowflake account, Snowflake by default give us $400 of credit. Okay, sorry, $400 of credit for a normal users. It is a free account. Okay, if you know, Snowflake give us a 30 days of trial period to create the account and use what you have learned, how to store those things. So it gives a by default of $400 of credit. So what's the uses? First is the pricing, like you store the record, it takes the price for that. The second price is like you are running the query instead of a virtual warehouse. You are running a query in extra small. Per hour, you are given a credit of one credit you are given per hour. Small you are given two. So it is not a high level of amount that you are get given here. Okay, whatever the time that query is running, or whatever the time that virtual warehouse is in a running stage. So in there is a two stage: running stage, suspended state, to save the money. Okay, Snowflake that give also these two things. See, you have a developer, okay, and you are running that you are run a query, select star from customer, and that query completed in 3 seconds. Okay, so you have given that amount of 3 second part, but still the virtual warehouse is in a active stage. So that active stage also amount that you are giving. Okay, so for that itself, Snowflake give a suspended state. Okay, so after 1 minute or after 2 minutes, you can manually decide it, like whatever time you want. So manually, so automatically, Snowflake suspended that warehouse whatever the time that you have given at the time of creation of a virtual warehouse. It suspended that warehouse. Okay, so you are not giving that amount, like that warehouse is in an active stage. Okay, where am I? Okay, this is the thing, query processing layer. All the queries is running. Okay, third is cloud service layer. So cloud service layer is just like of a core layer of a Snowflake. Okay, so it takes care all the system, like your metadata system, your authentication part, your encryption, data encryption that you are doing, all taken care by this cloud service layer. Okay, so in an interview, if they ask like layer is a which layer is a main layer of a Snowflake, you can say like a cloud service layer, because it is taking care all the records or all the data that is there inside of a Snowflake, how to be stored in a MFA factors, security systems, all those things you can get by the cloud service layer. Okay, in coordinate and manage the entire system, this layer ensure and take care of authentication and authorizations. Like you are a new user, you have the user ID and password, or you are connecting by Azure ID, anything like that. This is taken care by this cloud service layer. Okay, the user managements, all these things, user and session management, like you have multiple users, you have the multiple sessions, like you created a one session, session 2, 3, 4, all those history part of those sessions itself, this is taken care by the cloud service layer. Okay, season in the sense like you are creating a task bar, right? You created a task 1, task 2, task 3. So all those things, whenever you execute, you connected today Snowflake, tomorrow again when you connect, you can see those task bar, whatever the query that you have written, it is there itself in a Snowflake. Okay, this is called as a session management. Data catching, so catching cache system, if you know, like you have run a query, and after some days, after in Snowflake we have 14 days, max of 14 days, but after 1 hour or after 2 hour you run that query again, so it do not go directly to the table, it directly takes the data from cache memory and it stores the record much faster. So that is called as a data cache. Catching virtual errors, risk management, coherent in data storage, metadata management, zero copy cloning, and time travel. These are the features of a Snowflake: zero copy cloning, time travel. I will explain what is these things, like why we require this zero copy cloning, time travel, what are the things. Okay. Okay. Any doubt regarding these layers, architecture part, or in the previous sheets also? 1 minute. Let me charge my laptop. Yeah. Okay, I take it as a no, but it will be more good. Like it will be more easier if you interacted with me. You have any doubt or you know any new thing, then you can just explain me. Okay, or you can tell me so that we can learn both the things. Okay. Okay, let's go with a virtual warehouse. So, what is a virtual warehouse? So, I have the Snowflake account or not. Let me check. Okay, before going to virtual warehouse, okay, how we can create a how we can create a Snowflake account instead of a how we can create a Snowflake account. Okay, let's go with it. Because if I explain virtual warehouse here, na, you cannot you little bit of understand, but in practical, if I show, you can get a better idea. Okay. So let's create a account. Okay, how you can create a account? So see, start your 30 days free Snowflake trial, including $400. Whatever what I have said, like Snowflake giving us this thing. Okay. How we can create it? Let's create. Mm, okay, so once you have given your details, here it is asking about like which of the company that is required. Okay, let's give okay or job title, anything you can give like data analyst or data engineer. Okay, after that it is giving you a choice of a choose your Snowflake edition. Okay, what is this part? Like Snowflake edition part. So Snowflake, we have this three types of editions, like standard, enterprise, business critical. Okay, so standard is like of a part one or a version one of a Snowflake. Okay, so we have a limited things in Snowflake. You can run the query, you can store the data, but there is a limited features that we have in standard edition. Enterprise version is like of a most popular thing, like almost all the company like USIC, T-Mobiles, they are using these enterprise versions. Okay, almost all the things, all the features that is there, the inside of a Snowflake, it is there instead of enterprise version. But in business critical is going for a banking sectors, banking and energy sectors. Okay, they require much security. For that only, they are going with a business critical things. So, what are the things or what is there inside of a standard enterprise and business critical? Let's see. Okay, so, what are the things that is there in a standard enterprise? Okay, let's see. In standard, we have a complete SQL data warehouse, secure data securing across regions and cloud. Data sharing is like uh, uh, you have the Snowflake account, but your client do not have a Snowflake account. Okay, or any other user do not have a Snowflake account, but that user required to see the data. How you can able to see? You can create a data sharing concept is there in Snowflake. You can create a user ID, password, and you can give the Snowflake account users to that particular user for a couple of minutes to see the records, and after that uh, it will dismiss. You can dismiss that access part or that sharing concept of Snowflake, so that other user cannot able to see it. So data sharing is there instead of a Snowflake. Premium support, 1 day of time travel. 1 day of time travel is like uh, time travel is a concept of like we have the max of 90 days in Snowflake, but in standard we have only 1 day. like you have deleted a record, but you want by mistake you have deleted that record. So how you can retype that data? The concept, time travel concept is there itself. Okay, I will explain all those things. What is it? This time travel, data sharing, how we can do all those things. So we will on going classes we will see. Okay, always on enterprise grade encryption in transit and rest. That encryption data, Snowflake uses AES 256 of encryption to secure the data. So it is there itself in the standard version itself. Okay. Federated authentication database share applications, external functions, snow site, create your own data exchange, data marketplaces access. Normal things like if you are a new to Snowflake or you are do not have much record of processing inside of a Snowflake, you are trialing the Snowflake account, then you can go with a standard version. Okay. Enterprise version is like of a advanced version of a standard. Okay, we have this multi-cluster warehouse concept, so we can create a multiple number of clusters instead of a warehouse concept. Like, okay, up to the 90 days of time travel, here we have 1 day, here we have the max of 90 days enterprise version. Annual reckoning of all the encrypted data, materialized view we have, SaaS optimized service, dynamic data masking. Masking is like I've explained, particular role we have, and we do not want other role. We do not want other user to see the customer ID, customer address, name. So for that only, we have this data masking in Snowflake. Okay, so here in enterprise version, we can get this data masking, dynamic data masking, and external data tokenization. Okay, data tokenization is commonly new because see previously I have done for this USIC project. Like previously, we connected, we uses AWS to connect to other source systems. Okay, like Ticket Pro, ServiceNow, all those things. But for this data tokenization concept is there, you will introduce external network access. Okay, this is a thing that is coming in Snowflake. So you do not require AWS part, you can directly create a function, you can create a token, or you can create auth system to make directly connected to other source system. From this I have connected to Qualtrics, and Qualtrics sending the records to Snowflake. It is a inbound and outbound flow. Like we Qualtrics sending the records to Snowflake, and Snowflake is sending records to Qualtrics. So for that only we have data tokenization. We do not require to use of any third party tool like AWS. We do not require to use that thing. Okay, business critical, this is a main thing that is coming for the security perspective. Other system standard and enterprise we have much more security is there, but in business critical, the mainly they are using by banking sectors. Okay, PCI compliance, HIPP supports, try secret secure systems, AWS private link supports, Azure private link support, GCP, cloud replications, failovers, fallback, business continuity, external functions. I have before I think 2 to 3 slides before I told like replication part. Okay, server, primary server, secondary server. So all those things concept is coming under this business critical. Okay, failover, fallback, external functions, API gateways, client redirect, all those things. This is a BPA systems. Okay, this not coming under this version in part standard enterprise business because see here when I want to create it, it's showing only these three sections standard enterprise business. Why I have not included this BPS? BPS is a of a you need to be connect to Snowflake support team to give why they also ask like why you want this BPS, like this is a virtual private Snowflake. You want some feature of enterprise, some feature of business critical. You do not want all the feature of business critical, or you do not want all the feature of enterprise. You can create as per your you wish, like whichever the service you want from Snowflake. On that basis you can create a BPS system. Okay, the pricing system, the running system, all are different as compared to this all these versions in part. Okay, all these three versions. VPS is as of a different version per different pricing concept. It is different thing. Okay. Or normally, whatever the I have worked till now, they have not used this VPS part. Normally, they go with enterprise and business critical. But yeah, some of the companies they go with these VPS systems, virtual private Snowflake. Okay. So if I select here, normally we go with enterprise because we want to check these data masking, time travel features. Okay, so we go with this enterprise version. After that, it asks like choose your cloud provider. Okay, which cloud provider is required because you have different sources. Right now, Snowflake got this thing, but is still in a phase like it is a still a newer thing. Okay, so for that itself, previously Snowflake is having this cloud provider, Azure, AWS, and GCP. Okay, if you want, if multiple sources you have, CMS, other thing you have multiple sources, and you want all the sources to get the record inside of a Snowflake, you cannot make a direct connection to these things. Okay, so you need a middleware provider like AWS or Azure, so that those source system send records to AWS. AWS send in the records to Snowflake. The connection between the source and Snowflake middleware is a AWS or Azure or GCP. Okay, mainly AWS, Azure they are using. GCP right now it is still coming as a newer thing. Some companies go away with GCP, but mainly AWS or Azure. Okay, because almost all the companies have those developers of AWS and Azure. Okay, so they will go with AWS. Let's go for this one, AWS. Okay. After that, it come in as a reason. So here, when I explain about Snowflake advantage, we have this multiple reason we can go it here, right? We have deploy, you can expand new geographical region, deploy your application in minutes. Okay, so here we have this region system, like which region you can go with it. Right now we are in India, so it is showing as Asia specific Singapore region based on the location part itself. But normally the company is going with a Frankfurt. Okay, EU Frankfurt, because the server is much larger, and Frankfurt and Stockholm, all the companies, almost all the companies going with these two things. Okay, go with this Asia specific Singapore and recommended. Okay, if you click on this get started, on that particular mail you get a notification like you created a Snowflake account, create a user ID and password, and after that you give your user ID and password. It created a Snowflake account and give you a URL link. Whenever you click on that URL link, you can directly see the username and password. You gave your user ID and password, you can create it. Right now on that my email ID, I already created it. Tomorrow I will create a new ID, and on that basis we will create a Snowflake account. Okay, Snowflake account, and after that we will go. What are the things we have, like virtual warehouse? Okay. Hmm. Virtual warehouse. So how we are able to create a virtual warehouse? What the snow site is there in a Snowflake? Okay, snow site is like of a front page, front end of a Snowflake. Okay, what are the things inside of this Snowflake itself? How we can use all those things? So in tomorrow class we will check on these things, multi-cluster warehouse part, and tomorrow this part also I will explain. Like if we go with AWS, if we go with Azure or GCP, what are the type of versions, what are the type of dollars part pricing concept is coming under these things. I will explain tomorrow itself. Okay. Okay, let's open the quiz system. Quiz or any questions you have, anything you do not able to understand in today class, or you want me to repeat one more thing, like any concept that you are not able to understand. Okay, I take it as a no. Okay. Let me know in tomorrow class also. We'll if you have any doubt, so we can talk at that time, and after that we can start the class. Okay.